Is Ubisoft officially back on track? A game company that just continues to get criticism, even with promising games on the horizon. Every time I've covered Ubisoft or discussed Ubisoft games, there seems to be this contention that they have really fallen from grace. And I do think there have been some pretty big blemishes. I want to look at an article about, is Ubisoft finally back on track? But before I do that, before I kind of look at it and react to it, I wanted to give you my own thoughts on some of the things that I have covered recently. The first thing that we covered recently that I was excited about but also mixed with concern was the 11 Assassin's Creed games that are on the horizon. AC Red sounds very promising. They're talking about this game being like a blockbuster. They want this to be a blockbuster 2024 release, and I think it's finally time that we get to play as an assassin, maybe even a samurai as well. In addition to that, I thought, AC Nexus, a VR game, and even the Assassin's Creed Hexe were very promising, but so many Assassin's Creed titles could be too much of a good thing. You could be leaning too heavily on that brand going forward, because I do think Ubisoft has a lot of product in their corner. I thought Ubisoft Forward in 2023 did a good job. The bitrate was kind of terrible because it was live, and a lot of these companies are struggling to figure out just how high they should set the bitrate and how to get a good stream, and so everything looked better after the fact. If you went back later and you watched the trailers, I think Avatar Frontiers of Pandora looks quite good. I really wish it would have been third person, but I'm willing to give it a try. I think graphically it's solid, but I do think the more I watch the footage that the Far Cry similarity criticism, it does have some merit. I would like to see a little bit more of that content loop. I would like to see exactly, is that kind of what we're going to be doing? Because listen, I would love to see another Far Cry come out, but the Far Cry formula did get a little rehearsed. I would love to see exactly what they have planned for that franchise going forward. I would love to see more exhaustive co-op in Far Cry, and Avatar is clearly borrowing from it. But Prince of Persia was also there. I think it looks awesome. I know people wanted to see, a remake or like a new game, or maybe like a third-person action-adventure game. It would probably have been a little bit maybe too compared to Assassin's Creed and other games that are coming out, so I'm very excited, and the more they showed Prince of Persia, I thought looked, excellent. But then Star Wars Outlaws really stole the show for me at Summer Game Fest. I did a whole episode on that. If you want to go check it out, I said, listen, I think this stole the show. It's my big winner coming away from Summer Game Fest. I mean, that's against the announcements from both Sony and Xbox, and even Jeff Keighley's opening night. I felt that Star Wars Outlaws stole the show. Now, I'm biased, right? I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I think that game looks very, very promising. Now, I will say, if we're entertaining the subject of Ubisoft getting back on track, the Division as a brand and as a franchise, I'm a little less confident in that. Now, I know they had planned to EOL, to End of Life Division 2, a lot earlier, and now it's still going strong, and they even have plans to extend beyond year 5. They have Seasons 2.0 that we really don't even have any new information about just yet. I would really prefer them take everything they learned from Division 1 and 2 and make a really big, awesome, fully upgraded, truly next-gen Division 3, or maybe even like a Division MMO, like a truly ongoing MMO live service looter shooter. I think they know enough in order to pull that off. I'm not too confident in Heartlands, the mobile game. I really don't think Division's gameplay is going to translate well into mobile. And what I've seen of Heartlands, I'm not really compelled that it's going to do all that well either. It's basically just survival and extraction kind of combined into one game, and that's basically it. It's a game mode turned into an entire game. Now, you're going to point to Tarkov and say, hey, there's possibilities here. You may be right. Maybe they have a sleeper hit on their hands, but I don't have as much confidence there, as that is another piece of the Ubisoft brand. And the Crew and Just Dance, they bring in the money. I don't really have a lot to say about those because I don't really play them. I've done Just Dance a couple of times as a membership incentive on the channel, but I'm not really a Just Dance fan. And I also have never really gotten into the Crew or driving games in general. But there are some blemishes. There's still some pain that I think Ubisoft is going to have to endure. One of those is Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is just not looking like it's going to shape up to be a game worth mentioning, and now there's the rumor that Ubisoft Singapore will be working on the Black Flag remake or remaster. I'm hoping for a full-blown remake, really bring it up, really make it awesome. I watched 60 seconds of Assassin's Creed Black Flag footage, and I was like, why didn't you just make this game and call it Assassin's Creed Skull and Bones? Because he jumps from the boat, he swims, he finds treasure, he climbs on the boat. It looked awesome. It looked like, pirate fantasy action adventure, and a game with just ship battles and no real extension to the player other than the ship itself. I just don't think that game is long for this world, and I'm torn on Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like, I don't really know what to think. It's like you guys could have just made another one instead of remaking that one. Is that game really that good in the hall of Assassin's Creed games? Is that the one that we should be remaking? So I want to react to this article, because this has been a discussion for a while. Every time Ubisoft comes up, there seems to be just sort of this committed disdain for Ubisoft. And I'm like, man, they've got so much good property. What's everybody's issue with Ubisoft? So let's take a look at this article and see what it has to say. This is from cogconnected.com, and it says, is Ubisoft finally back on track? Over the years, Ubisoft has had its fair share of ups and downs. There was a time when the company produced a string of incredible games that placed them at the height of AAA experiences, but after oversaturating the market and releasing plenty of I'll wait. I can't highlight the text. Something crashed on the page. That's fine. Plenty of uninspiring sequels. Many lost trust in the French conglomerate. However, after a brilliant showcase with the Ubisoft Forward, are they finally back on track? Continue on with the article here. A Prince Among Thieves. Ubisoft has created some of the medium's most iconic characters and franchises. With a hardcore fan base for particular IPs, it's perplexing to witness the mishandling of certain properties. Like, I want to talk about this because I do think when you're at the top, you tend to think you can't fall, and so they just kind of keep cranking out game after game after game. The demand is there. Everybody knows your name. Everybody's talking about you. This is actually related to one of my concerns with the 11 planned Assassin's Creed games. Like, well, hey, people still like you, Valhalla did well, Odyssey and Origins did well. Let's just do more of that, right? I'm worried that's a very corporate level decision to throw so much weight behind one brand, like one franchise underneath their umbrella. So the hope would be that that's not what ends up happening, that maybe they space those titles out, really let them cook. An Assassin's Creed once a year, I'm okay with that as long as the dev cycles were long enough to bring quality to the market. The ones I'm most looking forward to are Assassin's Creed Red, Assassin's Creed Hexe, and then Assassin's Creed Nexus, the VR game. So I do think seeing things mishandled in that way, it makes sense if you think about it. When you're at the top, you're just going to keep cranking out titles, and they sort of fell into that annual release trope. We saw similar problems with Call of Duty, right? You have two different companies, two different identities form, and then quality of the games tend to go down, right? So I could see why that would happen. Prince of Persia is a classic. While its debut dates back in 1989, it was 2003's The Sands of Time that established the franchise's legendary status. The incredible adventure that focused on traversal and puzzles reignited the series, spawning several sequels and spin-offs and eventually flooding the market. In the space of 7 years, 8 different games were released. Granted, these delved into different genres and offered new experiences. However, fans grew tired of the Prince, and that's because of Ubisoft's poor planning. This is so related to the Assassin's Creed topic, right? Are we going to feel the same way? People already feel that way about Assassin's Creed, by the way. They feel like, number one, that it's changed too much. It's not my Assassin's Creed, right? It's too much of an action RPG. There's no stealth anymore. I continue to say that I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is not going to deliver what fans hope. I think they're going to realize, hey, this style, this trope, this format, it's played out, right? I think you're going to understand why they evolved to a more open world action-adventure RPG style with Origins when they did the soft reboot. I think you're going to understand why they did that. However, are we going to say the same thing? Are we going to get to the end of all these Assassin's Creed games and feel the same way they did, folks did with Prince of Persia? I think it's a valid concern. As sales dropped, they decided to focus their efforts elsewhere, and due to this, the IP has been dominant for over 10 years. What should have been an epic revival, I'm sorry, it says dormant, not dominant. It's been dormant for over 10 years. What should have been an epic revival when a remake of The Sands of Time was announced in 2020 turned out to be another misguided venture. The reveal was awful with dated graphics, which felt like a slap in the face to fans of the franchise. Luckily, Ubisoft saw the error in their ways and delayed the game to ensure it gets the love and attention it deserves. Now, this right here, this is why everybody was upset about the new game, The Lost Crown. Everybody, was thinking, oh, Prince of Persia, we're finally going to get Sands of Time remake. It's been 3 years. It's finally coming. So I get why people were upset. But again, if they've got to go back to the drawing board and start over, you want them to take their time. I mean, I would imagine they had to scrap a lot of it or start over. You know what I'm saying? Some things get too baked into the crust. It's probably far better to scrap and start over than to try to tack things on or just try to force it to market. So I didn't get hyped for the Sands of Time remake, which probably made me more receptive to The Lost Crown. And I also love side-scrollers. I love platformers. I love Metroidvanias. So my bias is definitely active there, okay? I'll own that. So I resonate with the people that are upset. So the article crashed. I'm going to have to refresh. Give me 1 second. Okay, we're going to continue here. Surprisingly, at Forward 2023, they open with a release in the new series, The Lost Crown, which harkens back to Prince of Persia's 2D origins. The fluid animation, focus on parkour, puzzles, and fast-paced combat has fans excited for the future of the franchise. With 2 titles on the horizon, it appears that Ubisoft understands the value of the IP and aims to introduce it to a new generation. Now, they went into more details, too, about just what you're going to be able to do in that, like the mechanics and the depth, and it actually looked really, really good. Like from the perspective of a gameplay loop and evolving the combat and really making a compelling game, I really am looking forward to that game. I understand the folks that were really hoping for the Sands of Time remake. Hopefully that eventually can come to market and be excellent, but it's far better for it to not come to market and be bad than, to have to wait, right? My producer always tells me nothing is better than bad. It's better to not ship it and for it to not hit the market than for it to show up and for it to be bad. So The Lost Crown isn't taking away from the Sands of Time. It's probably a completely different team and a completely different aim. The article continues. The action of assassination. The DNA of the Prince of Persia is evident in the Assassin's Creed series, and due to this, it became a hit with audiences. The first game set the foundation, and the Ezio trilogy built the pantheon. The focus on stealth and deliberate combat made each moment a thrill as you plotted your escape and juggled the number of options that lay ahead. Over time, the combat slowly morphed and aligned itself with the Arkham series. Even though this captures the mastery of close quarters combat, it lost the focus on precision. Now, in my estimation, it kind of went back and forth. I remember playing Batman Arkham and thinking, oh wow, this has been inspired by Assassin's Creed, and then the ball kind of got kicked back and the inspiration landed again in Assassin's Creed, and then you could tell that Assassin's Creed was sort of borrowing and taking inspiration from the Arkham series. So I do think that oftentimes what gets lost in the discussions about Assassin's Creed and combat is things cannot just always stay the same. You have to allow things to evolve. Nobody wants to play their 8th or 9th Assassin's Creed and just have it be a new location. Oh, here's a new historic locale, and you're unlocking these abilities and these stealth kills and these combat things, and it's all basically the same, right? Your swords and your wrist blades are just a little bit different, but it's still basically the same. And I think that's where I don't agree with a lot of the Assassin's Creed purists that felt that the game drifted too far from its roots. I think when you run that long, it's a must. I don't think you can stay sort of tied to the past. This is similar to some of my commentary about Halo being saved, right? If the video might be already uploaded, I'm not sure what order these videos are going to hit in, but I got a video about how to save Halo, and one of the things I talk about is it's too tied to the past. And I believe that Assassin's Creed successfully was inspired by and tethered to the past, but it wasn't rootly and strongly tied to the past, if that makes sense. As with other franchises, it did suffer from oversaturation. However, it was how the game strayed from its roots that was the real issue. Action RPGs are wonderful, but Assassin's Creed doesn't need to be one. Since Origins, each release has been a drawn-out grind, and due to this, it has lost its identity. So here's the thing. I believe the mistake here is the assumption that an action RPG needs to be super drawn out with a bloated map and too much content. I thought Assassin's Creed Origins was the perfect balance. Odyssey was a bit too much, and Valhalla was a bit too much. Now, somebody might say, why would you ever say this is too much content? I actually believe that Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Valhalla are the catalyst to more action RPGs, right? You're more in the lane of, hey, we're going to make this game and we're going to give you this amazing big open world, and then we're slowly going to fill it or add on to it. Because the alternative is what you felt in Odyssey or Valhalla, where the map itself, the amount of content, the amount of side missions, the amount of icons, it gives you paralysis. It almost pits your... If you want to be completionist and you want to try to get stuff done, the game feels like your enemy. It's almost making that insurmountable, okay? If you really enjoy making cakes, and I come to you and say, hey, I'm so glad you like to make cakes. I need you to make 20 a day for the next month. You might say, oh, no, I don't like it that much. Goodness gracious, right? And when you look at games like this, I think that's what it feels like. It's like, I like checking boxes. I like doing things on the map. But oh my word, there's so much here. It feels insurmountable. I feel like my desire for completionism is pitted against me, and then once I don't check those boxes and don't do those things, the further I get in the game, the more my enjoyment tends to go down. And this is why I think Valhalla and Odyssey are the catalyst to live service. You can build a big, great, big, awesome, amazing game, but don't fill it all right away. You can slowly fill it as time goes on. You get capital out of all those regions and areas that you built, but you don't have to make your game feel like it's bloated from day one. Continuing on here. Now that more footage of Assassin's Creed Mirage is available, it is clear that Ubisoft is creating a title in the mold of the originals. The enemy levels are gone, the protagonist actually looks like an assassin, and reports say this is a smaller, more refined experience. While the franchise is spreading its wings into mobile and VR, fans are delighted to see that they are not losing sight of where it came from. And I'm continuing to say, I hope I'm wrong about Mirage, okay? I love the cast. I love the dialogue that we've heard, okay? But I really, really worry it's going to flop, not as a game, but it's going to flop with the people who asked for it. I think they're going to say, yeah, this just really isn't as great as I thought it was going to be. I really hope I'm wrong. I love the Assassin's Creed brand. I kind of binged Assassin's Creed back in the day. I played AC 1, 2, and Brotherhood all back to back, and then I kind of bailed on Revelations because I kind of burned myself out, kind of fell back in love with it with Black Flag. I really like Syndicate. I love Origins. It's my favorite. But I'm worried Mirage is going to be that, yeah, we kept asking for this, and yeah, I don't like this. I think that's going to be the contention from a lot of players. So we'll have to wait and see, obviously. Now here, rising from the ashes, and I love this picture here. I know why they're using that. The last few outings from Ubisoft have been quite dire, really. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, yep. Division 2, yep. Were disappointing sequels that took a bunch of updates to get them on par with their predecessors. Watch Dogs Legions failed to capitalize on its innovative premise. Far Cry continues to copy and paste its formula, and the less said about Rainbow Six Extraction, the better. So, how have they been able to correct the course? Now, keep in mind something that's going on here. There's different faults here, okay? Rainbow Six Extraction was their attempt to take an existing brand and like turn it into something else. They started talking about how they were going to do that. They were going to take their brands and start to deliver free-to-play experiences. This is one of my concerns for the Division Heartland, okay? I worry that the Division Heartland is basically going to be another tale like Rainbow Six Extraction. Like, hey, we have a game mode attached to a brand and we're going to try and capitalize on it, and it's not going to work. I agree that Far Cry has done a little too much of copying and pasting its formula. I think more Far Cry is okay, but I also think you've still got to innovate. You've still got to kick the can further down the road. You've got to evolve the game, and I don't feel Far Cry has successfully done that. I think that criticism's valid as much as I enjoyed Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4. Loved those ones. I even liked Far Cry 5. But Far Cry 6 just started to feel like, okay, how many times are we going to do this? Now, Watch Dogs Legion, again, I'm not sure what happened with Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 1 obviously was sort of mired in the controversy of the graphical degradation and the dramatic shift from what they showed us. But Watch Dogs 2, I remember really enjoying myself and thinking that the game showed promise. And then Legion kind of fell on its face. I can't say why. Division 2, no end game when it launched. Took a really, really long time. This is saying to get it up to date with its predecessor. I believe that the Division 2 has surpassed its predecessor, but the point stands. It took a bunch of updates to get there. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I don't have anything to say about that. I have no idea how and well that game went. I just know that people were pretty critical of it. So it's clear what the mistake is, I think. All these games have something in common. They're leaning too heavily on the name. Well, we have Rainbow Six, right? Well, we have Far Cry, right? We have Ghost Recon, right? Well, we have Watch Dogs, right? They're all just leaning on the name. This is a concern for those 11 Assassin's Creed games, man. Are you just leaning on the name? Are you that feels like the Ubisoft playbook, all right? I don't want to get my hopes up and have them dashed. One way they've managed to do that is by looking to deliver high-quality film tie-ins. Star Wars Outlaws looks incredible. With its huge open world, the game appears to offer a ton of varied experiences. You can take part in cover-based shootouts or take to the skies for some dogfights in space. In addition to this, they are also working on Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. You can control a Na'vi in a Far Cry-style adventure to protect and preserve the sacred land. Yeah, again, the concern would be here is you're going to lean on the name Avatar, and it's just Far Cry. I don't want to give credence to that argument, but the more I've looked at this game, the more I feel that's a concern, is you're leaning on the name. I'm worried. Now, Star Wars Outlaws has all of the hallmarks of a good game. I don't see them leaning on the name. The combat, the movement, the stealth, how big and expansive it was, just the cinematics. I felt like I was watching Andor when she gets to the cantina. It's amazing. I felt like I was watching a film. I actually think Star Wars Outlaws is going to be quite good, but the concern would be there too is please don't lean on the Star Wars name, right? Everything we've seen on Star Wars Outlaws to me shows lots of promise. Avatar, not so much. 11 Assassin's Creed games, that gives me pause and caution. Is this the upswing for Ubisoft or not? While fans will still yearn for a new Splinter Cell and Rayman and hope for more UbiArts titles like Valiant Hearts and Child of Light, Ubisoft seems to be back on track. They have listened to fans and are looking to improve the quality of their output. Even though the jury is still out, Forward 2023 has given fans hope and future titles. So, good article there from COG Connected. Sadly, it kept crashing, so those little pauses in the middle, hopefully those weren't too bad for you, because it's probably just a second of your time. I had to keep refreshing it. So, are they back on track? I would say they have their sights on getting back on track, but they may fall prey to the same mistakes, leaning on the name and delivering mediocrity. That's something that they did with a bunch of their franchises, and I really hope that's not what they continue to do going forward. Now, this was likely a premiere while I was out of town, so those of you that enjoy the daily live shows, those will resume the following week. I will be back in town on July 24th. So if you like those live shows, make sure and hit like, subscribe. Make sure you're here for when those shows return, and make sure if you're a member, be hanging out in the Discord so you can be communicating with me and the rest of the members. Those links are below. If you're not a member, click that join button so you can become a part of what we do here. And as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.